mental problems either. So we're wasting our time, we're wasting our money, people are suffering, and there was a way to avoid this war, and today there is a way to end this war through negotiation. And it starts with the self-responsibility of NATO saying, okay, we get it. If Russia leaves, we don't go in. That's the words that need to be said.
I think it's also important to mention here, um, just almost ending, but you disagree with Putin's moves as well. Like people need to realize that as well. It's
Of
of
course.
course you're blaming the NATO expansion. That makes sense, but you also disagree with Putin going in and causing this war.
Of course I do. And what I said strongly at the end of 2021, and I tried to push it to the White House also, is avoid a disaster that's about to happen.
Hmm.
I have no sympathy for a Russian invasion. It's horrible. But I have no sympathy for the U.S. not taking the steps to avoid it
Yeah,
or to end it. So
yeah.
this is both sides. The main point when you have this brawl, separate the two brawlers. And that's what can end the fighting and make Ukraine safe again.
Thank you. Just to end, I want to talk about interest under the current capitalistic model, because a lot of economists, war experts have said that the reason you can have long wars is because nations can borrow money, which is of course based on interest. They don't have to tax so harshly because they can just borrow the money. So therefore, your population isn't affected so much, even though that the British taxpayer ended paying off World War One loans just in 2015. Um, However, obviously, interest enables that, and the reason I ask this is, as Muslims, a lot of people will know that in the Islamic paradigm, interest is strictly forbidden. Because of how you can manipulate people, you can control people as well through interest, and nations, in fact, because they're in debt to you. And also, interestingly, the Quran says that interest will lead to war as well, which is
Interesting.
yeah,
Very interesting. Yeah.
and that this is quite explicit as well. And of course, we're at that stage where we're seeing that. So I just want to, as an economist, take your view on the role of interest in this whole global warfare, which we've been seeing for decades now.
Let me put it this way, if I could. Uh, for millennia, wars were fought by princes who sent the average peasant to death. And the princes viewed this partly as their game or their glory, but it was the people who were suffering. Then we thought, or maybe sometimes it was thought, that democracy would stop this. I found it interesting to think that Britain was perhaps the most democratic, or nearly the most democratic country in the 19th century already, but also the most war-making, because there's a difference of domestic and war-making. So you could have some democracy, and Britain developed some democracy in the 19th century, real democracy, and yet it made war everywhere because it was plundering abroad, because it thought empire was grandeur, empire was wealth, and so forth. Then we thought, well, now we'll hold our leaders accountable. And that comes to the question, well, if you can finance things with debt, or if you're not accountable because you can put on sanctions with the stroke of the pen and no one asks, that breaks down too. So I would ask the basic question, first of all. Are the people in Britain or Europe or the United States well informed about the causes of this war? I would say no. That's first point. Second, did this war come from below or from above? Both on on both sides, whether it's the Western side or the Russian side. This was a war from above, not a war from below. This wasn't the public clamoring for war. This wasn't intrinsic hatred. This was leaders making decisions. Now, the public was ill-informed. The public was told a false narrative, and maybe the public went along at the beginning. But now, where are we? I don't think the American people like this war. They want negotiations. I bet that in the UK, people want negotiations more and more. I just heard in Germany of a very recent poll showing a big majority of Germans want negotiations, but their government officials do not right now. So I think that there's a complete lack of accountability at the top. And in the US case, a lot of foreign policy is in the hands of a very small group. It's in the hands of the president. It's in the hands of a small group in the executive branch. It's in the hands of a small group in the Congress. And it's in the hands of the so-called military-industrial complex, which is a few businesses that make the weaponry. And there is this view of a small elite that this war is good or in U.S. interest or okay or profitable or many ideas. But it's not the view of the American people, who, by the way, have not been told the truth about this and don't have even a mechanism to hold the government accountable, because Biden is about to get another maybe even $40 billion of money to the war without any separate vote on it, because he's going to stick it in an end of the year big package that has to be voted in order to keep the government functioning. So they're afraid even of a debate on this issue.
I guess just to re-emphasize the point, so if Biden is getting that 40 billion, how is that amount even possible?
Like you say, it's the Treasury will go borrow this money, and normally it used to be the job of Parliament anywhere, was the main job of Parliament even in how Parliament rose, which is to say to the sovereign, to the king, you can't fight that war or raise money without our vote. Yeah. And now we don't have that because, well, the Congress is going to vote, but it's going to vote on it as one line item in thousands. And I spoke to some congressmen about this. I said, now we need a debate because the American people need to know about this, and we need to say that negotiation could end this war. He said, no, there won't be any debate at all, because it's just going to be a piece of a package that's going to be pushed through without a debate.